Hello everyone, welcome to the Jenkins Infrastructure Weekly Team Meeting. Today we are the 26th November 2024. Around the virtual table you have myself, Damien Duportel, Chair Reddy, Mark White, Stéphane Merle, Bruno Verharten and Kevin Martins. Welcome everyone. Let's get started on the announcements. Today, nothing. We don't have a weekly release today because it has been postponed to tomorrow because it will be part of the security advisory. We'll discuss on the below point. So nothing to manage today because Mark did all the work. So we can we can rest. Thanks, Mark, for fixing the Git LFS, for noticing the issue on Git LFS 3.6.0 and fixing it.
Do you want me to raise the question here that I had, or do you want me to wait till later for a question on this one?
No, let's go for the question now.
Okay, so while doing that, I saw that we have three different Git LFS versions. There's the way we do it for Debian, where we install from the targz because we support many platforms on Debian. We have to do it that way. I think we don't have a choice. For the UBI container image, we rely on Red Hat and their maintenance of Git LFS because it's a standard package for them and it's reasonably modern. It's 3.4.1. For Alpine, we rely on their package manager and it's even newer from them. So my thought was we stay with the package managers where they're new enough to like them. But the Debian package is 3.3, and which is a very, very old Git LFS version. So is everybody else okay with that intentional choice that we stay with the package managers for Red Hat based distributions and for Alpine, rather than bringing in, I can't bring it in for Alpine because the Git LFS project does not deliver an Alpine release. So we can't do it. We have no choice for anybody else. We could do it for Red Hat, but my thought is the UBI container is intentionally security managed by Red Hat, and they do a very good job of it. So I'd rather stay with it. Other
That,
people's
yep.
opinions?
I agree. Don't the package cloud provide a Red Hat distribution one?
Package Cloud might, but after Package Cloud burned me on Debian, I'm not sure I'm ready to do Package Cloud on other platforms. So
The,
yes, that's another alternative. You're right. We could add the Package Cloud package manager and override the Red Hat version. My thought was that's not much better than just installing it ourselves from the targz if we really say we must have 3.6.0, because a non Red Hat provided package manager on UBI feels funny. I'm not sure if UBI will even allow it.
mm,
I haven't tried
good point.
Package Cloud with UBI.
Good point. The so yeah, the choices we have the same kind of choices to make on the infrastructure.
Hmm.
For instance, with Git. So the root cause is why do we want 3.6.0? And the reason is because it fixes many bugs and CVEs. That's the top level priority. And eventually it provides new features that we could benefit from. But in the case of Git and Git LFS, new features that we need are not something usual. Most of the time it's bug fixes, stabilization, performance, and above all, CVEs fixes. So when it comes to CVE fixes and eventually bug, usually the package managers will have the CVE fixed, usually by backports. Advantage, they compile and provide the right dependencies. That's the reason why using Red Hat. And that why other Docker agent images are also using Git LFS from package manager. But that also means that these other images are not using the failing CPU architecture though.
Right.
Um, so yeah, there isn't a good response. I will say let's compile Git LFS from the source code. Advantage, if we use the proper multi-stage build, we manage the dependencies and the compilation. It's built and tailored for our image, whether we use Alpine, Red Hat, and Debian. But that's quite the amount of work. Advantage, we manage the version once for all for everyone, but we could there are no version that will prevent issues like we had. The kind of issue we had will come all the time, and there are no absolute solution. Because if we compile, we will need to update the compilation flags and follow the upstreams. And when we will bump Debian or Red Hat or Alpine operating system version, we will need to change them. But if we rely on maintainer packages or package cloud, then we rely on someone else with different local optimum, which is not ours. So yeah, there isn't really an easy solution. Something though, given the argument you made, Mark, it could be interesting to say we will go back at the moment on time on package cloud because that allows us to have the same version on everywhere, if except eventually Alpine, but if package cloud allows us to cover both Debian and Red Hat, that could be interesting. And in order to fix failing platform, since we are using Docker, we can use the $target platform variable that allows us to do specific things. That's a trick we did with the Adoptium things. When
Mm,
in the case of, I think that come from you, Bruno, but the idea that should be discussed, I think, more on the SIG platform more than infrastructure, but that's a trick that will say, hey, use package cloud unless we have that specific platform we know is not working. For the time being, no emergency on running on this one because that require a bit of research. But we have Git LFS, we also have Git and others. So that's not an easy one to track. Right now, the fix you made work for the Docker core version and it solved the problem for tomorrow.
right, right. We knew we needed a short-term fix, right? And so I think I think what you're saying is we continue the discussion, admit that this was a short-term fix. As far as we can tell, it's a correct
Mhm.
short-term fix, but it's still short-term. Good.
Yep.
All right.
And maybe that fix can be generalized to other images in the future, but yeah, depends. I believe we need to have policies that are different between distribution, as you said, but we have to decide, do we want pinned version or do we want package managed versions? That's
Right.
the one that will explain where to go then.
Okay, thanks. So we stay with this and stay with the current situation until we need to change it. Thank
Mm.
you. That's good.
That will be worth asking the GenSec team how they feel about the version tracking when it comes to, hey, there is a new CV in Git LFS. Which images are impacted? How can we answer that question? And I believe that might help us going on one direction or the other if we are hesitating.
Yeah, so the last time I had that conversation with Daniel Beck, his answer was the Jenkins project, the security team in the Jenkins project has taken the policy that if our package is as current as the upstream operating system vendor provides, then we reject any CVEs reported against it
So
because
that
we
yeah.
rely on the upstream operating
Mm.
system.
So whether we use package cloud or operating system, that gives us the answer. Maybe
Right.
instead of compiling, we should delegate that work to the upstream.
and 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 we would, except that Debian has this terrible pattern. Oh, terrible, has this intentionally chosen pattern of using very old versions in their distribution, right?
Mm.
It's saying it's terrible is the wrong way to say
Yes,
it. it's
but not
it's
with the
a
CVs.
choice.
Not with the CVs. That's the thing.
Yeah, except
It-
3.3.3, if I remember right, is so old that there's significant functionality missing.
Okay, fair.
And so it's the same complication with Git, where they've got a version that's many years out of date on
Yep.
in the distro, and our replacing it makes perfect sense because we want to use the latest optimized Git.
Mm. It's not an easy one, yeah.
Okay,
Or drop
thanks.
support of Red Hat and Alpine and just keep on one distribution. Anyway, that was the troll. We are not Friday yet. Sorry. I went ahead.
Okay, topic resolved. Thank you. Thanks for letting me take the side trip. Let's go on.
Thanks, Mark. So the important announcement is now that we don't have any more problem tomorrow, please don't break the Jenkins infra. We will have many security advisories, not only a weekly release, an LTS release, but also we will have plugins. So clearly, we might have issues. Last time we had that, there were issues when building the packages and the Docker image. That I don't remember if that problem has been fixed. It was due to JDK 11. I believe we should not have the problem anymore since we don't support JDK 11 for both weekly and LTS. But keep in mind that maybe we will need to republish the Docker images if it fails, or if we have some missing. As soon as these releases are available with Infra, we'll need to update our controllers. So that means all of our controllers tomorrow. I don't have anything else on the announcement. Do you, folks? Okay, so let's have a look at the upcoming calendar then. So the next weekly is not today, but tomorrow. And next week, 3rd December 2024, we will have a new weekly as usual, back to normal. The next LTS, not the one, I'm not counted the one tomorrow, is planned for the 8th or 9th January. I have doubt suddenly. Uh, it's planned for 2025, no LTS expected due to the 2 weeks break end of year. We have a security release tomorrow. And on the upcoming credential, we have one credential, the backup credential on Infra CI expiring 9 December. So in 2 weeks, I believe an issue is needed. Stefan, I will count on you to do this one with Jay, because Jay is right now the principal user of Packer stuff, and you know how to update the credentials, so that one should be good enough. We need an issue for that. May I ask you to create one by copy and pasting from last time? It's because I did my part on the expiration on the past 3 weeks. so, so I'm pointing fingers at you. You are designated volunteer. There is an
I got
automated pull
it.
request. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Stefan. And I've received an email earlier today about uh, Netlify tokens. There are two. Um, I don't know if you received that email. Okay, I'm
Yes.
having an issue writing a word. That's terrible. Okay, so you also had, so I'm not
I
alone.
did, yes.
Cool. So we'll take care of renew this one. The reason is because since we abruptly enabled 2FA on Netlify 2 months ago or 3 months ago when there were penetration testing, a surprise penetration test on the infra. I'm not sure everyone here has a MFA. If you have time, please check your access to Netlify so I'm not alone on trying to access it. But Netlify will ask you to not only log in with GitHub, which might already have its own MFA, and then an MFA specific to Netlify is enforced. The goal is to avoid people stealing our password and defacing our website. So if it's okay for you, Stefan, I will take care of this one. So we share the burden of the credentials, and Jay will suffer on having to wait for us to renew things. Cool. Any question on the upcoming credential expirations? Nope. Okay. Next major event. If you haven't voted yet, please vote. Cast your vote, register. You should have received email. We have a blog post. We have a lot of information. So please make this community healthy by voting. Reminder, we have a 2 week release break, not only LTS, but also weeklies on the 2 weeks at the end of the year. Because some part of the world have a lot of days off on that moment of the year. So not a lot of people available around here.
So when you say, are we actually going to disable the weekly release process during that period? Did I
I
understand that right or no?
I would.
Okay.
That's what I understood we should do. However, if we have, it's possible. It's just at least the LTS for sure. If you're asking the question mark, that means it might not be as obvious as I thought.
I
So let's challenge that assertion if that's okay for you.
Yeah, I think in years past we did not bother to disable the weekly build.
Okay.
So that if contributors were contributing during the holiday period during their time off, we would not delay the arrival of their changes to users, but
Mm.
I think it needs more discussion before we turn it
Yeah,
off.
I will vote for turning it off just for the sake of it's a break. That means not only reviewers on the core part might not be available, so just to avoid a surprise update during the two past week, especially with an LTS that come the next 2 weeks after. And also on the infra part, if there are issues, we might not be available enough if something goes wrong. Because the first one will be 23, I think, because Christmas is Wednesday, Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. And I think I will be the one on call the next Tuesday. So just in case, if it's not that much important, I would prefer to suspend the two weeklies
And I think it's worth
from infra side.
right, and I think it's worth the discussion, the proposal, and why not, right?
Mm.
That's if there are others who say, oh no, we'd rather not
Mhm.
suspend weeklies during that holiday period, during that end of year period, that's fine too. It's a good discussion topic.
Stefan added a message, and we need a manual trigger for the Docker image. It's not a manual trigger from the Jenkins Infra team. It's a manual trigger from a Docker image maintainer. So that could be Maro, that could be me, it could be Hervé, team. I think there are 7 or 8 maintainers on that image. It's only creating the tag and waiting. It's just if something goes wrong on the infra, then we don't have a lot of available bandwidth. Okay, so Mark, you will let us know if we have to expect disabling or not.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it.
Because I'm not sure who to raise on where to raise the topic, so it could have
Right.
developer feedbacks. That's why.
Yeah, good thing. I'll raise it to Jenkins Dev. Yeah, very good.
Cool, thanks.
Hmm.
Okay, so mailing list. We have a Jenkins contributor summit the Friday just before the FOSDEM in Brussels in Belgium. So don't hesitate if you're around here to come and meet us. And that's all for me on the calendar. Something else for you folks? Nope. Okay, let's have a look at the budget. So November on Azure on the CDF managed account, we have consumed 3.5K. The forecast says 4.3, including the $100 of support. So we should have a 4.4. So we are okay. We are in the budget in the area. We saw two slight increases. One which is ephemeral DNS request due to the brownouts and the new update center. The amount of public DNS requests to the DNS zone changed, of course, because we changed the DNS. But now it's changed, it will be cached, so that peak should not happen next month, unless we have a rollback or something like that. The second one, which it will be persistent, is a slight increase on the daily, $15 to $20 more daily on the outbound bandwidth. Of course, we're serving data from the new update center in Azure, so we have to pay for that additional data. I was betting on 50 to $100 more per day. So clearly we are above. No, below. Sorry, I need to use the right word. Words has meaning. I mean, so we are clearly below what was expected. So that's a good thing. So we are under budget and we don't need additional effort on that area, except keep watching. On the sponsorship thing, we have consumed 10K, forecast at 11K, which is, hey, we should continue our efforts. So we have a few months in front of us, but yeah, let's continue moving to AWS for CI, so the money in that account will serve for the rest of the infrastructure. DigitalOcean is going as expected, and as a reminder, next week we'll start requesting extension of the sponsorship. Otherwise, we will have to move Archive Jenkins IO somewhere else before end of year. Finally, on CloudBees, we have consumed 3.8K, which is a forecast at 4.3 at the end of the month, instead of the usual 6K. Hey, we dropped from $200 daily to 16, thanks to the new update center, which means December is expected to be less than 1K. clearly 500. Now the top level source of billing is the storage. I haven't seen that since years, so that's really cool. Anything else on the cloud budgets?
Thank you. That's all. The Jenkins board thanks you. The CDF thanks you. Thanks to the team for doing great things. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Okay, let's have a look on our operational tasks then. While we are at the thank you, thanks Mark for handling that big amount of spam users. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, we're getting two or three a day now, and while
That's
I'm
a
on
lot.
holidays, I won't look at this, and so we will see more, and that we'll just see more until somebody looks at it and comes
Mm.
back. That's the way it goes.
Yep.
There is a pattern here, and I've become more aggressive in blocking the pattern. So you'll notice it's typically user followed by digits followed by another name, and yeah, so we'll continue blocking.
Maybe with a regex, we could say
No,
you failed the Turing test.
well, and there is, yeah, some of them are coming from the same email provider. So there is actually a regex to the email provider that causes me suspicion.
I mean, given the amount and the annoyance, that could be absolutely worth saying, okay, you have an email from that email provider which is marked as a regular spammer, so please change your email.
Yeah, the challenge is it's a large email provider. It's not the biggest email provider, but it is a large email provider.
Please don't say gmail.com.
No, that is the biggest
No,
email provider, and it's
clearly.
not that one, thankfully.
I I mean, that will stop a lot of spam.
Right, right. It would
No,
also,
the
yes,
real long-term solution, more seriously, is to us working on replacing account app that will help a lot by providing additional, let's say, milestone for validating identity. But yeah, we're not there yet. That will be for 2025, most
right.
probably.
Yeah.
So we had an issue caused by the work on AWS CI Jenkins IO. We added some settings. Yes, yes, that's crazy, but that user wasn't able to release their plugin because of CI Jenkins IO. Unrelated, no, it's because we changed a setting on the agent allocation on the new EC2 system, which uses SSH. So of course, the SSH virtual machine agents spawned by trusted CI when you need to run repository permission updater were failing to have an agent. So they were failing to update the tokens, and the tokens being expired, that was blocking all the plugin releases. So the problem has been fixed once they notified us. And that's again the problem, the long-term thing about monitoring our internal builds, because we could have cooked that earlier. Fixing before user notice is still hard because 3 hours can be really short, particularly if it's the middle of the night. However, that we have room for improvement here in the future. Two issues has been raised and fixed related to the new update center. There were 404 errors due to some missing tools. So we discovered that AWS sync command is not managing concurrency very well unless you are AWS on the other side of the channel. So in our case with Cloudflare, we had to stop deleting remote files. Otherwise, sometimes the files are deleted before or after the copy. Because AWS S3, even with AWS, is eventually consistent. As a reminder, these are not atomic operations. These are object storage. We don't really have a problem with the crawler and tools metadata to not remove them. We don't deprecate these tools often. We don't plan to, as far as I know. So that's not a problem here. We also had errors. We saw user having errors. So reminder, and that confirms our gut feeling from the past weeks. Users that are using old Docker images with install plugin.sh cannot use it anymore. That's not supported by the new update center, and it won't be. If you have that kind of problem, please update your tools because your controller is in grave danger. Not because of that, but because of the numerous CVEs that you are embedding on your Jenkins old version.
Right.
And if someone has an issue with that, please open an issue and add your arguments. And how much are you spending time to help the community on that topic? Um, Regarding the usual task for keeping the infra up to date, thanks Jay for the update CLI that help us keeping things up to date. So the Jenkins security team is happy because now they have all their Maven minor version up to date with the latest patches, avoiding human having to do it. Thanks Jay. And also, we, the Jenkins infra team, are happy because our Packer image for agents now have pinned version of the base OS image for Docker, Azure, and EC2 for Linux and Windows. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Stefan. Because thanks to that now, if we have a surprise Windows update breaking OpenSSH, we will see it during the pull request and not when it's in production. Good work, Joe. I'm really happy with this one, particularly. Anything else on the closed issue? Did I miss something? Nope. Okay. Now, work in progress. Top level topic, the new update center. We have two tasks to work on, and we worked on during the Pulse milestone, and we'll need to continue working on. The first one, did I say eventually consistent file system? Yes, I did. Um, the amount of errors is really low. However, we have, instead of being some time to time, like it used to be with the older system, these errors are packed suddenly during run or 2 hours until the CSI system crashes, or there is a new update center triggering Samba CIFS cache cleanup. So it's resilient, and as such, Stefan has proposed to remove the every 1 hour rollout restart of the Apache, which has good results because we see the error clearly less often. That had a positive impact, but the error is not fixed yet. Sometimes Samba presents the files as if they were empty to Apache. And also sometimes AZCopy, the eventually consistent tool for copying to eventually consistent file system on Azure this time, is corrupting the files and truncate some lines. That's insane. So the goal is to replace AZCopy by AirSync, and our HTTPD will stop using and eating a shared file system. They will use a local POSIX thing. And we have a strategy for managing when this ephemeral disk will need to restart on an empty machine. They will need to be populated at the beginning. Stefan and I had a lot of good ideas. Thanks, Stefan, for helping me brainstorming on this. You had a lot of good ideas. We have an architecture for this. Right now, the work and progress is on replacing AZCopy by AirSyncD because we need AirSync server with a proper authentication, which means not AirSyncD itself, but SSHD. So whip on replacing AZCopy by AirSync. So we have set up a server that is on the shared file system that we will need to keep. And now we are working on the copy from Update Center to populate that data through AirSync. Yes, we have many last minute surprise. Like, yes, we have unprivileged container with Samba. So that's not a good recipe for permissions. So we are working on this. Then the next step will be to have each HTTPD instance will have a side AirSync server, and they will share a local directory. If you restart the pod somewhere else, the local directory will be empty. And we will use the power of Kubernetes here by providing what we call an init system. It's an init container. Before starting HTTPD, it will check if there is a file locally. If that file doesn't exist, it will populate from the shared file system. So we will keep multiple copies of the system everywhere. And that will also avoid outages. So now we have to continue working on this one. I expect finishing the AZ copy replacement before next milestone. Anything else? No question?
So the noise that I had seen about the JDK 21 tool installer delivering half a file or part of a file was, or maybe delivering part of a file, is not this kind of eventual consistency problem, because the files that we're getting are not, they either exist or don't exist, right? It's not that they're
Mm,
there with half the bytes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's my understanding. However, if the files are still valid JSON that can be parsed by Jenkins but missing just the right part, in that case, that means we have a serious issue on Cloudflare S3 systems.
Well, or we've got a problem in the generator that created the file or the Eclipse API. Okay, so but it's unlikely that the thing I
Mm,
saw has anything to do
with
with
this one, yeah.
this one. Good, thanks. That's all I wanted
That's
to
a good
confirm.
point.
Thank you.
I think you've put your finger on the right thing. That could be on the generator part that will
Right.
generate with a missing item, so it will keep generating
And
something as if we were 1 year ago.
right, and if the Eclipse API and the Eclipse API is changing, right? The Eclipse team, the Adoptium team changes their API, and sometimes those changes break things. So that's it's the problem is solved. We have no idea how to duplicate it, but if it comes back, we investigate further.
Good point. Then HTTPD is earthing side. Okay, good reminder. While we are at the non-track by issue, but we discovered the hard way that big on Cloudflare was still enabled on US East Mirror. We disabled it on Wisterop, but we forgot to disable it on US East. So some of the users downloading file were greeted by a 403 forbidden error instead of success, which is just a slightly annoying, right? So that one has been fixed. I need to add a comment on the issue about this one.
Well, and I watched over the weekend, actually. I was really pleased. We still get an occasional 403.
Yes, but
But
not because of the big.
exactly, right. And that was the relief. It's, oh, look, the volume is much less. And when I investigate, it's like, yeah, I believe that. That should be that one is a valid browser question. It's or a valid other thing. So yes, that's
Mm.
good.
So the information we have on the logs about these few errors, these are real life browser. So it's not a JDK, Python, curl user agent. These are real life web browser. And it's the page you see on some websites when you say Cloudflare is verifying that you are a human or a valid. That's this one. And sometimes it fails. And when that automatic checks fails, then you are greeted by a 403. The documentation on Cloudflare explain in detail why and how and what are the cases, and clearly this is their system protecting us from non-legit requests. That one can be disabled if we discover that these were in fact legit requests, but clearly the user agents show that, yeah, we don't expect to support this kind of usage. Thanks, Mark, for the reminder on this one as well. Finally, we have a new issue to work on, which is to do. I've created that issue last week. We want to set up archive Jenkins IO to be the fallback for the download mirrors, which means making sure that the update center copies data to archive Jenkins IO. We already have SSH and Apache server with DNS and certificates. And then once we have the data of both crawler and update center, then we want to add this as a fallback on mirror bits. The goal is to be sure that we are resilient to any Cloudflare outage, human or technical. That's all I have on Update Center, which is still the top priority for now. That priority might be challenged starting December in favor of CI Jenkins IO. We will discuss that next week. Is that okay for everyone? But we keep it for the upcoming milestone as the top priority. Then on the CI Jenkins IO topic, the new controller. So now Stefan is back and almost healthy, except the voice, of course. We have a controller virtual machine that is able to at least discuss with AWS, trying to create agent with no credential, which is really cool. We don't need to rotate that credential in the future. Thanks to the work of Jay, not only we have up-to-date images on Packer Image and working EC2, but these things are garbage collected, so we won't waste the account credits quickly because we start to already have a lot of snapshots. So good work, Jay. Still a few elements to add, but that issue is okay, is almost okay. We have one last pull request that is being worked on, and then that issue is closable, which means we will be able to resume the work on adding new ephemeral agents. Uh, what are the next steps? Windows machines, we have sub issues in TryEdge for that. And then find the proper configuration that's detailed on the issue. That's work in progress. On the EKS cluster part, so we delayed that to this milestone because Stefan was sick and I didn't have the bandwidth. Stefan and I worked on, he had a draft pull request for creating a new EKS that it is tested successfully 2 or 3 weeks ago. It has been rebased with the last network changes that we did for the machines. Right now it looks almost good. We have one last major item, had API IP restriction. The API of Kubernetes is already restricted by authentication, but we also want to restrict it by IP. If either you come from Infra CI agent or the VPN, or you cannot manage externally that cluster. Thanks to Jay, we have up to date with update CLI and changes outbound IP specified. That's a work that Stefan started 1 month ago, and that's Jay finished. So now we have all the data in the Terraform project. It's just a matter of setting one attribute in the pull request that will read local IPs. So we don't have a lot, and we should be able to have a running private cluster next week unless we have a last minute bad surprise. Stefan, are you up to the challenge on this one for the upcoming week? Once it's created, you will be responsible on setting up all the management administration level on InfraCI for this. Cool. Any question on CI Jenkins IO? Nope. Okay. On the usual, keep the Jenkins infra up to date. We started to work on removing Blution from all of our controllers. That's a request that was started by, I think, Uli Hafner and not my fault, I forgot his real name in real life, Alex Brandes. That wasn't possible back in time, but the feedbacks we gave them was able to drive, and we are not alone. A lot of people gave feedback. So now the pipeline graph view totally replaced our usage of Blution. So Stefan worked on removing Blution or ensuring it's not there on the Docker controller we have, the one running in Kubernetes, release, infra, and weekly. So the next candidate will be CI Jenkins IO trusted and cert. Trusted and cert, I bet Blution is not there anymore, but we have to check. And CI might be the most controversial. We might need to, I'm still hesitating. Should we ask the developers or should we just do it and let them know right before? What are your thoughts? I have mixed feeling about this one.
Sorry, ask the question again, Damien. I need to think a little bit more clearly about it.
No problem. Should we ask CI Jenkins IO users if they are okay with us removing Blution from it? Or should we proceed and just advertise that, hey, we are going to remove Blution from CI Jenkins IO to avoid endangering it in the future, and we go forward?
So I wouldn't even use the message to avoid endangering. Blue Ocean is not being actively maintained and hasn't been actively maintained maintained or enhanced for a very long time. If our team is okay with not using Blue Ocean, then I think we just remove it. I don't. Let's say a user objected and said, "Ooh, I'm a user of ci.jenkins.io and I want to continue using Blue Ocean." We would want to know what their objection is and point
Yeah,
them to and find out how to solve it with Pipeline GraphView. And the best way to detect that objection is take it away and admit that we don't want the overhead of having it installed. It's not that Blue Ocean is evil or bad. It's just not being actively maintained, but Pipeline GraphView is. Whoops, wrong.
good point. Yeah, I agree with your proposal. What are your thoughts to the other? Everyone agree, or are there any objection? Okay, so Stefan, you are up to plugin remover. There is a new update CLI issue for keeping some things up to date. So Jay, you have been designated volunteer for this one. So the idea is the following. We have we have a network security group that allow agents on CI, Jenkins.io, but also trusted and other, to reach any server on the internet through SSH. And we want that issue is about restricting this to only SSH to github.com. We are not aware of any case where it's legit to have something going from CI Jenkins.io agents to an SSH server somewhere else. And then we will need to keep the allowed IP up to date. GitHub provide an API, and the idea is to have an update CLI manifest that detects change on these APIs and will change the firewall accordingly. Uh, are there any objection? Are there any use case that we could have forgotten? I guess GitLab.com, but I don't think we use GitLab.com for retrieving data on CI Jenkins.io, right? Um, The idea is that if we have user impacted by that, we will communicate before applying the new firewall rule. But if users are impacted, they will let us know and we can add this to the allow list here. Any objection on this? Cool.
Work on that should get started in a day or two.
Thanks, Jay. No emergency on this one. We raised it because since we are creating security groups on the new CI Jenkins.io, we saw that we had these rules that could be improved here. If we don't have time or if it takes more time than expected, we can delay, no problem. So Stefan, you also resume your work on GeoIP database updates. Assuming you cannot speak due to your voice, you have updated the Helm charts, so the package for GeoIP system. So now it should be a cron job that runs every 4 hours, 4 days. We will decide this at the installation. And now you're working on testing this without endangering the production, but while testing it as close as possible. So the strategy is to use the same persistent volume where we have the database, which is old from August or July, and you will create a subfolder for testing, and your cron job will insert data in it and should update it. As soon as everything is good, we will jump back to the root of the file share and we are done. Did I miss something, Stefan? Cool. So we should be able to have the database updated soon. Now we have 4 issues related to what I call level 1 support. That's what we do when a user have issues. We still have the stories Jenkins.io user story struggling. That one has been delayed because it looked like it was possible to do without fixing this. Kevin, can you confirm it was good for you?
Yeah, I'm working with the contributor now to get the story taken care of and everything published. I've created the story, everything's all set, so no need to worry about that for the time being.
Okay, it's not slowing you down.
Nope, not at all.
Cool. Okay, so thanks for the feedback. So we keep that on the milestone. We will need to fix that problem, but yeah, let's finish with our current priorities. We still have some statistic missing on the infrastat system. Kosuke is currently checking. He's back home. He dropped me a message last weekend that he's going to check if there are OpenVPN client-side issue on his own. So more news in the upcoming week. Mark, we haven't had time to look on the non-priority points here. Sorry. Again, we have some case where data is downloaded from an unexpected repository. These are the good one, but we will want to avoid downloading from repo Jenkins CI for these things which are already published somewhere else.
Understood.
Finally, plugin stat for Bouncy Castle. I've added a message. We need help on this one, or we will take it later.
Yeah, that one is not an infra problem. That really
Okay.
is the tool that generates the list of what do you call it? The list of releases to the stats data is making a wrong decision about what is a valid version number. It's doing that based on a regular expression heuristic, and the regular expression heuristic is, guess what? In a plugin infrastructure as rich as the Jenkins infrastructure is with 2,000 plus plugins, there is probably every version pattern known to humanity represented there.
Should we remove it from the milestone and let the issue keep
Yes,
its life?
we absolutely can remove it from the milestone because there's nothing we're going to do about that. It might be a member of our team that writes the code to fix it, but it's not really an infra problem. That is a tooling problem that needs to be helped by somebody else.
Cool. Thanks. So that led us to the new issues. We mainly have the request to be made a maintainer of the Jenkins infra components by Chris. We are going to triage this one, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so I guess this one. Okay, so looks like Chris, they did all things required by adding the link to the conversation where this was validated. So unless someone objects, since I have the admin permission on Jenkins Infra, I will give them the permissions. Is that okay for everyone here? Okay, so that one will be on the new milestone then. Oh, sorry. I need to do it. Yeah, but I will do it later. For the rest, we have the windows that will be added to the milestone once we'll be able to work on it. Maybe this week, maybe in 2 weeks. I'm not doing it right now because we'll focus on the other tasks. The other are delayed actions. So I don't propose new issue. Do you have other things you want to add on the upcoming milestone while I'm looking at the issue list if we have new one? Nope. Okay, so I need to set up the new milestone and we can proceed. Anything else to add for this meeting before I stop recording? I'm stopping the screen share. So for people watching us on the recording, see you next week.